And nobody told me nothing.
He lied in the court. He be staying there for at least 4 or 5 months.
I came in, I asked Mario. He just pointed and said, go talk to Miss Chen. He didn't want to tell me a word.
I tell him, that's your responsibility. Don't put me on.
I went and talked to her. She goes, I don't know nothing. I know nothing.
I don't want to help nobody no more. Once enough. And to put me on the court? No.
Appraiser Paul Tumber is suing his ex-wife, Stephanie Sotenko, and her new husband, Ed Sotenko, for a loan to pay her mortgage and for his share of a vehicle.
This is case number 420 on the calendar in the matter of Tumber versus Sotenko. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Perhaps.
Mr. Tumber, this is your former wife and her present husband. And the two of you have been divorced for some time. You have a 17-year-old son. I assume that is this young man over here. Correct. According to the complaint that I've read, recently, after your divorce and after your former wife was remarried, she ran into some financial difficulty and called you and asked you for a loan. You obliged. According to you, advanced her some money. I think $750.
That's correct.
You want the money back.
Correct.
And in addition, your former wife and her husband purchased a car for your son.
Correct.
And you invested some money in that car in repairing it.
Correct.
Then you decided to buy your son a newer car. According to you, there was an understanding that they would reimburse you when they sold the old car for the money that you had invested in it so that you could sort of put it towards the new car that you were buying for.
Correct.
They sold the car and they didn't give you the money that you had invested in it.
Correct.
So you also want that money.
Correct.
Okay. When did your former wife call you for this initial loan?
It was around the beginning of this year, but around January.
What happened? You ran into some financial difficulty?
The financial difficulty wasn't about me necessarily. It was regarding my son and expenses that we had with the car, with medical, and with a phone bill.
What do you mean the car? What kind of expenses?
Okay, the car that we purchased for my son was a car that we knew.
I don't care what you knew. You had expenses because you had to have it fixed?
Yes.
And how much did you need to have the car fixed?
There were different parts that we needed to buy. My husband did the repairs.
So you spent some of the money that he gave you to fix the car?
Correct.
How much?
The total that we spent on the repairs, just the parts, along of the receipts I could find,
Yes.
was $224.03.
Okay. $224 to fix the car.
For the parts.
Fine. I don't care what your husband's labor was. That's not important to me. What else did you need money for?
My son had a cell bill.
Who bought him a cell phone?
I did.
So why was it your former husband's
It
responsibility?
wasn't, except for my son went over the minutes, and he did this one occasion.
Did your former wife tell you, Mrs. Sotenko, tell you that this money she was asking you for was for your son?
No, Your Honor.
What did she tell you?
It was for mortgages on the home that she was in arrears of.
Were you in arrears on your mortgage?
I was never in arrears on my mortgage.
Did you tell him that you needed money to pay your mortgage?
I told him that I couldn't pay the mortgage and everything else, that my son's cell bill was so much money, my son's medical bills that the insurance didn't cover was so much money.
You pay child support, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How much do you pay?
Just shy of $600 a month, I believe.
Okay. How much money did you
Your
pay?
Honor, that's not true.
How much does he give you?
$370 a month.
How do you account for the discrepancy, Mr. Tumber?
I'm not sure how much I pay, to be honest with you, Your Honor.
So why don't you say, I'm not sure? I don't know. Is it something that a man can say?
I don't know.
3 little words.
I don't know.
don't know.
Correct, thank you.
Well, you should know how much child support you pay. Do you pay pursuant to income deduction order?
Yes.
So it comes right out of your pay?
Right out of my check, yes. Mm-hmm.
So it's not 600, it's 370 a month, according to you. Is that what you receive, or do you receive more if there's some in arrears?
$370 a month, Your Honor.
Period.
Period.
Okay, fine. How much money did you loan to her, sir?
$750.
Oh, that's not true, Your Honor.
Show me.
Your Honor, I'd like to
You have a
submit.
check?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Canceled checks with her signature on them.
Your Honor, he could have written anything in after the fact.
No, I'm just looking at the canceled checks, madam. And I'm even looking for the memo. Memo is irrelevant. You owe him $750. I think it's very nice that you can call him and say, listen, I ran into some financial difficulties and I need some money and your son lives with me, so could you do it for me?
But, Your Honor, that's not how it happened.
Did you sell the car? We're going to get
Yes,
to
we
the
sold
car
the car.
now. Just a second. We're going to get to the car. You and your husband bought a car. You bought a car for your son. And according to you, some of the money that you got from him was used to fix the car.
Correct.
Right. Then you sold the car.
Correct.
How much money did you give him? I just answer my question. How
Zero.
much money did you give him? Zero. How much did you sell the car for?
$1,000.
Well, if he paid for the parts to fix the car, why didn't you think it was appropriate that if he was buying your son a new car, for you not to at least reimburse him for what he had spent? Don't you think that that's appropriate? Fair? Reasonable? If I believe you, Mrs. Sotango, if I believe you, you were able to call your former husband and say to him, despite the fact that you are under a court order and pay child support, it's not enough. Because I have some bills that I'm having trouble paying for our son. He went over his minutes on a cell phone that I bought him. That's not his fault. You choose to buy him a cell phone, 17-year-old kid, and he's not responsible enough? That's not his father's problem because you provided him with the vehicle to be irresponsible. But he was, according to you, he was a nice guy and said, here's the money. According to you, he was a nice guy when you say, I have to fix the car and I need some parts. According to you, he was a nice guy. Gave you the money. According to you, despite the fact that he pays child support and is not in arrears, he had some unreimbursed medical bills, and he said, here's the money. So I'm asking you, if he was a nice guy, how come when you sold the car and he was buying him a new car, you didn't say, here's the money that you laid out for the parts?
The car was bought because the car that we bought for my son wasn't good enough, wasn't cool enough. They bought the car. I had nothing to do with that, neither did my husband. We have endured financial difficulty. We did not say that we were going to give him the money. It wasn't for my son to barter. It wasn't for him to barter. We paid the mortgage with the money, and that's the circumstance we're under right now.
So why didn't you just say that to me instead of giving me a whole lot of who shot John? You paid the mortgage. You borrowed money from him and paid a mortgage.
I thought you knew that. I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Ex-wife Stephanie Sotenko owes for a loan and for proceeds from the sale of their son's vehicle.
Listen, you're a nice guy and she owes you $750 because I believe it was a loan. Now, you tell me about the contract that you say you had with her with regard to paying you back for the money that you invested in the old car.
Okay, well, the verbal contract was that when the vehicle was sold, that I would recoup the money for the parts for the repairs, which I have canceled checks for right
Can I
here.
see them, please?
There never was.
Who did you make?
I'm sorry?
Who did you make this contract with, sir?
With Stephanie.
Can I say something, Your Honor, or do I need to speak in turn? Or
No, now you tell me.
as far as the car, how many fathers give money toward repairs of their son's car and then ask for it back after the car is sold?
Well, let me tell you what usually happens. Usually, if a boy has a car, and if he wants a better car, and his parents, they are reasonable, say, listen, we'll sell this car, we'll use whatever money we get from this car, we'll put it towards another car. That's what parents do. What you did was you took money from your former husband, because these are your
I
canceled
didn't
checks.
take money
Yes,
toward the
no,
car.
yes, you did.
Your Honor, I did not ask him for the money for the parts for the car. He willingly gave me that money.
Because he's a nice guy.
So he was a nice guy and
Just
did
to
that
say
for
he's
our son.
Just a second, he's a nice guy.
And
you're supposed to be responsible. You're supposed to be moral. You're supposed to be a moral
And I
example
am.
for your child. You are not.
I am not.
No, you are not. You are not.
Okay.
Because if he is being a nice guy, what you're supposed to be is a moral example for your son and say, listen, we sold the car for $1,000. You put in practically that. I'm speaking. You put in practically that. I'll be more than happy to give that money towards the new car so that we will jointly, in some way, contribute it to the car that our son is driving. You chose not to do that. You owe him the money for the repairs to the car because I believe you had an agreement if you sold the car to give him back that money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,595. That's it.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
These are excused. You may step out.
If I had had the money morally, I would have given the money.
I'm in the financial position. I don't make a lot of money, that I just wanted my funds back.
I didn't really want to be here, but I guess it's the best way to do it.
It's no love lost between my son and I.
Be sure that you know what and who you're dealing with.
Did we learn anything today? I don't really think so.
Planner